Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. So let's get started with today's show. So in one of the author forums I'm in on social media, there was an author who was having some struggles with selling her book series. Now, this author also had multiple pen names and multiple genres, and she was planning to do even more book series. Well, there's the issue of probably self-publishing too many books. But I think part of the issue was the multiple pen names problem. Now, pen names can be a really good idea, especially if you're trying to build an author brand that's different than your day-to-day self. We can kind of equate it to like a stage name that a musician or an actor would use. You want to select a name that would be appropriate for your market and your genre. So they can be good for that. And if you do have multiple genres, or multiple audiences for your work, pen names can help keep all of that separated. So they really do have value. However, here's some warnings about using pen names. You have to be aware of the fact that your real identity could be compromised at some point. Imagine the public backlash and the consequences that you might be facing if that happens. Here's a story to illustrate. And I saw this in a Publishers Weekly article. There was an author who was a teen lit or teen literature author, and she had been invited to speak at a teen lit conference. However, she also was an author for erotic fiction. So when a Google search by the event found that she also had this mature adult genre, they disinvited her to speak. So yes, there are real consequences if your real identity becomes revealed. And the way it can become revealed is sometimes through your close family members and friends. You know that they're the worst at keeping that kind of information secret. And if you're employed and you self-publish under a pseudonym, pen name, as a side hustle, it could impact your employment. This is especially the case if your material is controversial. And how will your employer react? How will your coworkers react? There are rights and responsibilities regarding pen names, and I would suggest that you consult an attorney to figure out those rights and responsibilities. Let's talk about rights as they relate to copyrights. You can register a copyright under a pseudonym or pen name in the United States. The issue comes up with if there's a claim for copyright, you would not be the real owner. Now, the Copyright Office will allow you to register a copyright under a pen name, but then indicate that you personally, your real person, is the copyright owner. But then your identity is now part of public record. So what the Copyright Office suggests in their circular on the topic is seek legal advice. You can see why. On Amazon, you should keep all of your pen named work separate. At this point, you can have up to 3 author pages on Amazon, and you set those up on Author Central. The only caution I would give you with these author pages for your pen names is make sure that you have the right books under the right pen names. because sometimes it's very difficult to remove a book from your author page. I've tried it. There was a book that I published a while back. It's no longer relevant. And so I wanted to pull it off my author page. I requested it and nothing happened. This is exceptionally critical if you are doing both adult type work and children's books. You don't want those mixed up on the same page. So when you set up your author pages through Author Central for Amazon, be very, very careful. And related to the Amazon issue is marketing. Too many pen names means too much marketing and too much work. Even though you're just one author and you're publishing several different things, each of those pen names is essentially kind of a separate profit center, a separate business, and you have to treat each of them differently, particularly if they're very different genres or very different audiences for your work. So that just increases your work, not only through setting up multiple pages on Amazon. You'll also have to have separate social media profiles, and that could take hours of your week just maintaining all of those. I see a lot of self-published authors have struggles with just one social media profile, let alone multiples. I think that was really at the heart of the issue for the author that I introduced in the opening. She just had way too many genres, way too many pen names, and I think it was just getting muddled, and she was probably getting overextended with all of the work she had to do for all of these varied avenues. Now, here's a very important personal question about the use of pen names. Are you using a pen name because you have a secret life? Your pseudonym could be a cover for what you consider an unacceptable part of yourself, or you may consider this socially unacceptable. But either way, you're living kind of two lives. And if your real identity becomes revealed, it will be very devastating for you. So if you're using a pen name because you feel that what you're doing, what you're writing, the topics you're exploring or subjects are unacceptable, I would suggest getting some coaching or maybe some counseling to explore those areas personally and privately, instead of through the brutal and very public business of publishing. Then there's the question of diversity and inclusion. I've even seen suggested that authors who feel they may not be accepted by a lot of people because of their race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation should use a pen name so that their work could be accepted by more people. This is crazy. And here's a very famous story that explains why this is so troubling. J.K. Rowling wasn't always J.K. Rowling. She's actually Joanne Rowling, but her publisher suggested that she write under a gender-neutral name because boys may not be interested in reading the books because she's a woman author. Oh my God, that's insane. She takes the suggestion, but then, of course, when she starts winning awards and shows up to the awards as a woman, of course, her cover's blown. And considering that that's a recent example, it's not like hundreds of years ago, it's recent. I can't even wrap my mind around that. My problem with changing your name or accepting a pen name in order to be more accepted is that you're not trying to reach the right audience. If you have to change who you are To be accepted by a hostile audience? What did you expect? So even if these prejudiced audiences read and love your work, and then they find out through an accidental real identity reveal that you are who you really are, they still might not appreciate you. We have to remember that there's no difference between the book and the author. People buy your total package. They buy the author and the book. Before I go on a total rant about that, I'll leave it at that. So I hope you have found that helpful. And if you did, please rate, review, and subscribe to the Heidi Thorne Show on whatever podcast platform you like to use. I'm on Apple Podcast and Spotify and Stitcher and Google Podcast, Podbean, and Amazon TuneIn Radio. If you like the YouTube video better, that's fine. Just subscribe to my Heidi Thorne YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so that you get an alert when a new video is available. And if you'd like to see more about my books, which are self-published under my real name, just go to Amazon, Audible, or Apple Books. Type in my name, Heidi Thorne, and my author pages will come up where you can see a list of all the books I have done there. I would appreciate it if you would share either the podcast, video, or my books with your friends on social media. And if you'd like to connect with me, my website is very simply HeidiThorne.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the next episode. And in the meantime, have a great day.